Maybe a holiday shortened week, but plenty of action in the markets. So far this week, we received data on April durable goods orders, which showed stark declines in the total value of new orders placed month over month. The Conference Board also released consumer confidence data, which revealed a bounce back in May. And this morning, we received the Q1 estimate, the second one for GDP, and it pulled back by 0.2%, which was better than expected. Meanwhile, markets may be looking to close out earnings season after big reports from Nvidia and Salesforce. Both companies beat estimates, but Nvidia lowered its Q2 outlook due to tougher export controls on AI chips to China. Salesforce, on the other hand, raising its fiscal 2026 revenue forecast, citing growth from AI agent monetization. Joining me to weigh in this morning is Gabriela Berrospi, who's the founder of Latino Wall Street. Good morning, Gabby. Thank you so much for joining me. So in New York morning trade, we are looking at Nvidia shares soaring by 5% and holding right above 142 a share. So what is your reaction to the earnings beat for Nvidia?
Yes, so I think it's shockingly better than expected because considering they had lost 8 billion in sales to the Chinese and because of tariffs, we were all a little bit nervous about the earnings report for this past quarter. But surprisingly, seems like nothing is stopping Nvidia from delivering better results than expected. I think the AI trend is stronger than ever, and it is going to create a lot of optimism because what we have seen that happens, it's when a company that size does very well, then it's almost contagious, right? The market reacts, not just the sector, but the market in general gets extremely optimistic because when you are that size, then you have a lot of influence over the sentiment. So I think it's very good news for investors.
And speaking of investors, Gabby, I do want to ask you about this week's macro data. We've been getting a slew of key economic data points this week. We got the second estimate of GDP. That was a number we were keeping our eyes on. And of course, tomorrow we get PCE. But out of all the economic data points, whether we're talking about soft data or hard data, what do you make of the overall picture when it comes to the economy?
Yeah, so the overall picture, it's, the GDP revisions are important and the inflation macroeconomic data, it's important as well. We need to make sure we're at the very least not reporting worse than expected, right? We need to see growth. However, it's been a while right this year because of the tariffs. So we'll have to wait and see to measure that. And it's going to be a defining moment because whether we're going to have interest rate cuts or not is going to depend on those factors, right? Specifically the inflation data. So far, it's been under control, which is the main reason why Jerome Powell has said, look, we're not in a rush. We can wait. We don't need to be cutting rates immediately like the president wants, right? That's his narrative. So whether he continues that narrative or takes action sooner than we all expect, it will depend on that specific data.
And finally, Gabby, before I let you go, we started out the week with Trump delaying tariffs on the EU until July 9th. And yesterday overnight, we got news of federal courts blocking Trump tariffs. So what do you make of that latest development here and the implications?
Well, I think that was a shocking surprise for most of us. We were definitely not expecting last night to have those news that the federal court would rule that for the tariffs to be paused, basically, right? Now, what's going to happen is that they'll have to be refunded because a lot of them have been applied already. So this is massive in terms of financial markets, right? The one thing, the main factor that has been giving us the most volatility and a downward trend is actually tariffs. So if we get rid of that, or maybe not completely, but for the most part, or some of them, I think it is going to start a new bullish trend. So I'm very bullish. I've always been in the long term, but now with this news, more so in the short term, and also something important that happened was that Elon Musk is stepping down from his government position at Dodge. that's amazing news for his companies, right? His companies need him. They've been going through a lot without his full attention. So all the investors of, Tesla and his different companies should be happy about that, because that's quite frankly where he needs to be as the CEO and founder of these companies, not the government, right? That's something he did. He wanted to help. As far as I'm concerned, he's not didn't make money off of that. He actually, I think, lost money because his companies got affected. So all this news, recent developments, the Nvidia earnings, the Elon Musk news, and now the tariffs with an uncertain path, I think are actually going to be helping the markets.
Okay, Gabby, always great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me and have a great day.
Thank you, you too.